Alright, so I'm making a sort of soapbox opinion stuff post on Mecha BREAK and its development after its Season 0 release. As an intro, I do love this game. This game has a solid core. It's a solid bone and structure in terms of the core gameplay. However, the meta progression of it and the loop itself is not as set up properly. It felt very rush. And this is, of course, Season 0. It felt like the game was launched way earlier than it should have, and they probably have reasons for that, for whatever reason, as evidenced by not having a complete campaign, a tutorial that showcased a sort of single-player experience and or a mecha experience, but then having no further lore, like, directly tied to gameplay in that sense, other than, some random matchback missions or the Verge intros and outros and stuff like that on the maps. So, as a disclaimer, if you don't want to be corrupted by the darkness of information and problems and even opinions, I suggest you stop watching this video and just enjoy sort of the game as it is and just play blissfully unaware, because ignorance is bliss. And I think you can still enjoy the game without having to dive deep into some of the meta problems within its game design philosophy and management. Because I'm gonna go cut deep into it, and then when you see the other side of the veil, there's not like you can't really unsee it. There's no going back. All right, so these are of course my opinions. Feel free to disagree. They're probably wrong in so many ways, and they're probably right in other ways. But this is just a sort of a shotgun post of ideas, thoughts, and opinions, and things and sentiments that I have gathered from my experience playing, as well as my experience going through forums and all the other jazz. Anyways, here's a quick summary of what I think real issues are in a list format. I think 1. Vague communication from the devs. 2. The battle pass or matrix contract sucks objectively. 3. There's bots in ranked. 4. Too many ranks. There's like 10 and 5 tiers for the first 9 ranks. 5. Rank system sucks and isn't a measure of skill but playtime and luck, unless you're aiming for the very top spots where you actually... It is still luck based, I guess, based on the matchmaking, but it also isn't. But it is also measurement of more playtime than it is technically skill in that way. 6. Matchmaking system is janked for rank. 7. Development team denies the bot allegations. 8. No in-game way to make core except by playing the market with RNG. I do want to make a small note here that beta players were able to make Corite, which is the premium currency, the yellow cubes, by playing Mashmog, but I guess after the game launched, Season 0, there's not that. 9. Too many queues for the current player base. 10. No Linux support. 11. Lack of serious meta progression or milestones. 12. The menu is atrocious and convoluted for new players and even current players. 13. Bad and overspent budget in marketing towards specific streamers and such. This is just like my personal opinion. 14. Upsetting a lot of the beta players or the player base that was initially following the game itself. And so I made that list basically to give a sort of list of what I think first impressions based off of a lot of things that I've seen are, and then I'll try to dive into some of them in more specific terms, but not in any specific order because I just wrote up a lot of things. So I'm going to start with beta player complaints. I didn't play the beta myself, and so I'm hearing this as like sort of a secondhand. A lot of the beta players are complaining about the monetization of things and features like changing eye color and other things, and like I get that's important. The issue is the devs are trying to make a profit off of a feature that was pre-existing, and then they took it away, so that alienated the beta player base, and it was like an insult, if that makes sense, right? So if you promised something or give something and then you take it back and then resell it, it's kind of like a slap to the face, if that makes sense, which isn't good for any players who experienced it. Now, I didn't experience it, and I personally don't care about pilot customization, but it is an issue for those that were aware, because you had this product, and then now it's essentially selling itself as DLC, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of monetization of things and features and designs that were available for the pilot, but then taken away and resold for them to them for premium currency. And I think the mission tokens and matrix credits are all different, and that caused some issues with seeing how people uh, got to see the new revamped currency system. That also feels rushed, and it doesn't really, it doesn't make a lot of sense, honestly. Also, they added their anti-cheat, which prevented Linux players from playing, and so there was a lot of players that were on Linux that played the betas that cannot play the full game, and that's not good, because a lot of there's like this Venn diagram of Linux players that include the mecha niche genre in that way, people who likes mechs, people who likes Linux, and those people that like customization want, a nice mech game that has customization that they can play on Linux. So not catering to Linux players was a bad move to not cater to the people who like customization, which in any mecha game, people want to build their mechs. And for whatever reason in this game, it's more of a hero shooter with an extraction shooter element, but isolating the Linux players is not the move. They have this game available on Steam Deck, which is Linux ran, so everyone Linux wise is complaining about not being able to run it on like a vanilla launcher or game launcher or via Steam without finding a workaround. And there are workarounds, and I can include a link to that in the description that might work. But again, I'm not like a Linux pro, I don't know, so I don't know if it'll work or not. Anyway, so this is sort of my opinion, and then a lot of people disagree with this, and that's fine. But take it with a grain of salt. But I think from a game design start perspective, it probably doesn't help that you unlocked all strikers except for the three seasonal ones at the beginning. I think it would have been better if you got like five or so unlocks, and then the strikers were priced reasonably at 5K mission tokens, including the seasonal new strikers or something. Maybe even have free strikers on rotation or something like that, similar to the other hero shooters or other MOBA models that they have. That way, everyone can sort of try a mech and then they see what they like, allowing people to have more meta progression, because just unlocking it kind of doesn't really feel like rewarding. So people didn't have a real reason to play a bunch, except for getting mission tokens to farm for seasonal gear and seasonal skins. People didn't feel like they're unlocking things as they played more, and then people didn't get awards that meant really anything. They got like achievement points and stuff like that. Also, another thing for the game design start, I think the game system is complex. Even just playing the game is complex. The menu system is large and has tabs nested in tabs with parts hidden within a tab nested in another tab, and that's way too complex and too much noise. So it wasn't really optimized for that. Just playing the game, the menu system itself is complex, but also just playing the game is complex. It has a high barrier for entry because you have to learn things like energy damage and damage types, as well as fluid armor and other things. Some people don't even know that you can dodge out of melee staggers. Some people don't even want to think about energy management. There's a lot of things that you have to keep tabs on in order to play well. And I've met champion ranked people that don't even know what the repair beacons are on the elimination map, as well as not even playing the objective. And, like, maybe they just want to kill people and have fun doing that. But also, like, maybe ranked isn't optimized for objective play. In fact, I might as well make a map guide going over all the Verge maps to get a quick rundown for people who actually want to like play the objective and also improve their gameplay. But that's just a side thought. What I'm trying to get at is most people who play for fun don't want to think a lot, and there's a high complexity with this game that you have to like learn the systems and the basics in order to do well, I think, and that creates this pseudo large barrier for entry for a lot of people, and that is like effort. It's like you have to do homework in order to play the game, right? Like how many people decided to not learn chess because there's rules to chess and then other things like that. I mean, the rules are a lot more simpler in chess because they're more straight lined and defined, but here in this game, not even the stats are fully explained. So there's a lot of things that you have to learn, and then there's even things that aren't explicitly spelled out for you. So you have to learn like what is melee damage, or what is melee delay reduction, or what is the, drained energy regen stat, what is airspeed comparatively to air boost speed. It's like, that's a lot of thinking. You don't have to know these things, I guess. You also don't know have to know you also don't have to know the modifiers for the maps, like if there's a lunar adaptability or anything like that. But then you're gonna be like, hey, why is this mech feel different when I play on this map versus this map? And then there's all these other things and factors that go into it that makes you feel like you should be performing better or having fun at least. And then this game has a lot of brain drain if you want to play exceptionally well. And with the way that ranking system's made, you're essentially pushed upwards in order to fight uh, players of equal or higher skill, or even meet players that have lower skill. It's like the ranking system is pretty janked. So I'm just saying this from a game design perspective. It's very unappealing to have a lot of things that you have to think about, a lot of things at the start. It's just very complex. All right, so here's my personal take on playing this game all the way, to legendary and all that jazz. This game doesn't have a chill mode, and I think that's really off-putting for a lot of people who like mechs and who like PvE and who like a combination of mechs and PvE. Like, I'll be honest, this game has two toxic game modes. It has a hero shooter, which is very toxic and very tilting, and also an extraction looter shooter, which is riddled with grief if you get executed, or if you die and you lose all your loot and there goes a run, or 8, 10, 12, 25 minutes of your time. And that's another thing I have a qualm with this game, is that it doesn't have a chill and mindless game mode that you generally don't care about dying or losing. Like, yes, you can play casual, but also in casual you can get ranked with, or you can get stacked against some of the best players, depending on your rank. So like, in casual matchmaking, if you're in legendary, you're going to get legendary ish people on both teams. It's going to try to matchmake you with the same rank as your ranked mode, which I don't like. Plus, they're going to add bots of the same rank and or tier, so they play similarly. And the reason why I don't like this is because if I'm trying to test out a new like striker or something and try to get good at them, I kind of want to just like mess around with real people and or maybe even bots, and I could start a custom game and probably do that. But doing it in casual mode should feel casual. I should be able to chill and have fun. But some games of casual are actually even more sweatier than ranked. And if you didn't care about losing or dying, then I guess it's not a big deal. But also, it's not fun. It's very brain drain. You can get burnout. And I think a lot of people want PvE, even though this game didn't advertise PvE, but they want something that's fun and replayable, so that way they can actually just do it and have fun. You know what I mean? Like, people play games for fun, and I think one of the design philosophies that are critical in this game coming out is that they wanted to try to make it a very competitive game. So they did push out Covert Ops, which was a good move to help players play weekly and not get stomped by all the murder hobos in Mashmock. And to be honest, the murder hobos in Mashmock are pretty nasty. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no issues with specific clans or people in Mashmock. They're good people. They're enjoying the game as it was made. The problem is when you get like fresh new players with like zero playtime, and they're in the same lobby as legendary ranked skilled players that kind of actually know how to handle their striker. It's not a good matchmaking system, and the murder hobos are going to win, which means that it alienates the new player experience. So if normal, which is the lowest difficulty setting for Mashmock, is riddled with really high skilled players, it creates a barrier preventing low skilled or new players from actually getting in. And that's not good for the player base or player retention. This game has a stupid amount of non-chill activities. Like, dude, can I like chill and just like try Serenith or something, without having to worry about like getting auto targeted by auto aim bots in casual or getting wrecked by people of the same ranking in casual. Even the ranked mode isn't chill, which arguably it shouldn't, but you can get really burned out very easily by playing your hardest, and you might even get some adrenaline from trying to survive or score kills or try to avoid the enemy missiles as they chase you across the map, which is indeed fun for some people, right? But for casual gamers, and I kind of put myself in this category, it's very tiring. Like I don't really. I want to pilot a mech and just enjoy and kill mobs and just be kind of mindless and be a robot myself, while also feeling like I'm doing something, having progression, having fun, chilling with friends, which Covert Ops does a little well, but there's also some downsides with Covert Ops being introduced that I'll get to later. What's crazy is that most games in Ranked Verge are like 8-ish minutes. Sometimes they go on up to 12, maybe 15, but it can feel so unchill that I feel like this sort of 20-minute time dilation where I'm like I have to decompress after a game, which is another thing because queue times and the game times are a bit of a mismatch depending on the player base. So if there's not a lot of players online or active for whatever mode you're trying to do, you might wait for like 10 minutes just to get into a 5-minute game. And so now you have longer queue times than you do have game times, which is not good. At least in like Dota or League, the first 10-ish minutes of playing the game is relatively chill compared to the crescendo highlight of storming the enemy's base. And also in those games you can surrender at 20. So that's like another perspective to give, is like there's not really a downtime when you're queuing up between games because you gotta sort of like lock in the whole time almost. And at least with those games like Dota or League, most games end shortly after, and they rarely run to like 30 minutes and such. At least when I was playing, and that's probably part of the tempo of the game design. So I don't know what it was like when I was climbing seriously in Verge because I take breaks between my games because it is intense trying to win and then trying to get everything in a row and then not trying to mix up who's on your team and who's on the enemy team, because if you play games back to back, I think you're going to mix up positions and you're going to mix up who's who. So I take breaks when I was climbing seriously in Verge. I took breaks between matches to decompress and not have the wrong sight picture of the teams and the maps and the positioning. And even in MASH, it can get sometimes sweaty. So like there's a certain the tempo of the game pacing wise does not feel good to go back to back in and out of a game. And I think from a game design perspective, that's not good, right? So even in MASH, it can get sweaty. MASH does have a lot chiller of a tempo, but sometimes you run into some of the murder hobo teams, and if you're paired up with new people, you're not going to win against the three people that can 1v3 an entire team, which is a sad experience for the new players again. And executions can be humiliating, especially if you can't get revenge, which if you get executed in MASH, you get put out of the game. So imagine dropping into MASH Mac for the first game ever, getting wrecked, and then getting executed as your first player experience. You're probably going to uninstall to say that the game is pay to win rather than think that your skills are lacking, which, I mean, to be fair, like, you shouldn't really have your first new player experience be very unchill to the point where that you're dying and getting executed and then getting, emoted on like it's like some sort of weird, I don't know, ranked Fortnite or something. So if your game is so not chill that people have to de-stress or unwind by playing another game, it's a sign that it's not optimized for fun, which is a problem. And that's part of the reason why a lot of people want PvE. They want fun, they want to enjoy the game, and they want to play it for hours on end, because if it's a good game and if it's fun, then time flies, right? So everyone wants to feel like an overkitted Gundam anime protagonist in a mech game killing bots, and I'd argue many players playing the game don't want the accountability for skill, or they don't want to think about a lot of things. They just want to be the protagonist anime character with plot armor so thick that not playing the objectives in Ranked Verge isn't a big deal, which that does happen. People actually have that protagonist anime character syndrome where they don't play objectives at all and just kill people. To be fair, some of those people actually just kill people because they like killing people, and they don't play the objectives because they don't care about winning. But that's also another thing. That's a different discussion. But that happens a lot. People just want to kill and they don't want to be killed and they just want to have fun. So Mecha Break right now is a mech game, but without the sort of mech game philosophy. It's very PvP and not PvE. And to be fair, they didn't advertise it as a PvE experience, but they're also trying to launch it as a PvP experience. Just know that, some, I would say maybe a lot of players probably don't want another extraction hero shooter. And I'm not saying that that's the case, but I'm saying that that might be an opinion out there floating in the metaverse. At least in other games like StarCraft or Halo 3, you could do custom games and play around. Here, you can do custom games, but it doesn't have the ability for you to really change things or change the game modes or change how you're going to play or change what the maps are or change weapons and all that jazz. So there's not like a heavy customization feature, which is part of why I think the game was undercooked and early launched, because even the cinema mode, the replay feature isn't fully fleshed out. Like you can only see yourself. You can't pan around the camera. You can't see other players' perspectives. Like even Halo 3, I think has a gold tier standard for their cinema mode, so that way you can see all the different perspectives, take pictures, take videos, clip it, and do all sorts of fun stuff. And they have competitions and all that jazz. And that was like, I don't know, that game came out a long time ago. So we're not like reinventing the wheel in terms of features and stuff that you could actually enjoy, but it just takes the effort to, code it in and make it happen. And I think that this game is undercooked because it has these sort of vanilla, very bare bones bone structure of what it could have, and it just hasn't fleshed them out yet. In any case, a lot of people want something fun to play, and they want something competitive for it after finding out that it is fun to play. So you have to sort of cater to the fun first, not specifically casual gamers specifically, but then you can cater to the sweat and tech optimization of the players. Because if people played video games and then dropped the game within the first 10 games, they're not going to see or experience high level play. And I've noticed, I don't know, since launch there was like something like 150,000 players, but now the average players on Steam roughly peak at like 7K as of making this. So that's something to consider, is the fact that there is a lot of attrition and people are playing different games and they're enjoying different things. And, everyone has different reasons: family, work, life, jazz like that. So we have to consider, someone wants to play a game. If it's not fun or worth their time to play, or even the term grind, right? Then they're not gonna play it, right? So that's something that I think if this game had a chill mode where you could just chill and enjoy, I think it would have a lot larger of a player base, which would then allow for rank optimization and competitive play, which would then allow it to be a more esports scene, if that makes sense. I think a lot of more veteran and senior gamers that have been playing a lot of video games kind of just want to play games that they like for fun and in order to do things for fun. So they're not like, they don't want to look at a game and be like, oh, this is a second job, right? Oh, you got to wake up at this time, you got to wear this specific gear, there's a loot table and all that jazz. Like, a lot of people just want to have fun. I mean, that's like one of the main purposes of playing games. And I think that if this game could add something that is more fun and more chill and caters to people who want to pilot a giant robot mech and then enjoy piloting a giant robot mech without necessarily the current matchmaking system and structure and competitive level of play at both the extraction or the hero shooter, then I think it would do better. But I think a lot of people are kind of turned off about the idea of both extraction shooters and hero shooters, except for a handful of people that really love that stuff. But then they also have, everyone has options. It's not like there's only one game of everything. So that's just my opinion. And I'm still gonna play this game. It's still fun. It's just there are things that I think could have been optimized better, quality of life wise, and to make it more chill, in case you want to de-stress without having to tab out or exit out into a different game. And I think they could create a better ecosystem gameplay loop that incorporates that. All right, now here's one of my biggest, probably the biggest thing that frustrates me is the dev communication. There's a lack of concreteness. It's all vague and wishy-washy, which causing a lot of burnouts between other people and players trying to fight for the top slots for the season rewards, or the uncertainty of whether or not people should spend mission tokens by, or all this other stuff that like could easily be answered if they gave us concrete answer with a concrete date. But to my knowledge, no community managers are active in answering players' questions that they about things that the devs aren't answering either. So if players don't know when the season ends and even the community managers don't know, it's not a good look. There's, to my knowledge, no one from the internal dev team being a liaison to give current community managers access or information to answer, quite frankly, very simple questions, and that also paints the picture that the devs don't know what they're doing, and it makes the current community managers just kind of like moderators with their hands tied, unable to answer simple questions, which undermines their authority. And to be honest, I don't even know if we really have community managers in any of the forums or other jazz. Like, it just kind of seems hands off to my knowledge. Also, to my knowledge, the devs don't go through the Steam forums or Reddit or whatever, and they don't have a very large active presence. So they're not communicating and they're not making the player base feel inclusive, at least for the people who are like really dedicated to this, in the sense that they made it their main game, if that makes sense. And there might be a language localization issue thing or time commitment issue. I don't know why, but they just don't communicate. What I do know is that this is definitely hurting the player base, the current player base, from feeling the feeling of being heard or seen. So if players don't feel like their, contributions or opinions are at least being acknowledged and, put up for discussion with other players or even debated, and then having like someone from the dev team be like, okay, this is something interesting, we're going to go along this path, or even just saying that, hey, no, that's a bad idea and this is the reason why. I think that would really show more reasonable approach for keeping people engaged and in check and following up with updates and all that stuff. Because right now I'm looking at a lot of the forums and lots of people are doom posting everywhere. In fact, in some of my videos, people are actually doom posting, which is apparently a thing since the dawn of internet forums and online games. Doom posting. And there's a huge psychology behind why people doom post, and I'm not here to get into that. But what I am trying to get at is arguably my critiques could be misconstrued as doom posting. And I'm holding out hope and riding this ship with copium and hopium particles injected into me, and I'm making this sort of soapbox post in order to sort of paint my feelings and opinions as well as my aspirations for how I would wish that this would go. Point is, if people or players don't feel involved in the game's development, then you're kind of abandoning your current player base. If you keep them in the dark and they don't know what's going on, and then there's all of a sudden new changes, and half of which are really bad and half of which are good, but then it comes with strings attached, like the covert ops thing. Like, there's a lot of vague communication on whether or not it stays around or not, or it has other strings attached that, like, the weekly 3 times a week kind of thing. A lot of players found that iffy and they didn't like that. So not being able to communicate the decisions why or behind it is not a good way to grow your player base, because there are other games where you can openly talk to developers and then figure out, hey, what's going on, how's it going, oh, okay, you're doing this, oh, we get to see behind the scenes, it's kind of cool, right? Like, that experience is sort of a meta layer experience, and I'm not saying that we need specifically that, but we do need some sort of communication, because if they just abandon their current player base and they're trying to grow their player base, then it's like chasing two rabbits and you catch neither. Does that make sense? So They need to like lock in and actually communicate with all the people. I know there's like different languages here, like the Japanese servers, the Philippine servers, South American servers, as well as Europe, North America, and China. They actually need to talk to people and actually respond and be like, "Hey, we're listening. We're working on these things, and here's the updates and all this jazz." And honestly, if they gave information out to community managers, and then the community managers are able to essentially be the bulwark and the front wall and the shield to help protect the reputation of the developers, it would make for a lot better of an experience rather than the developers not really talking much except for maybe an interview here and there with some big game journalist company or um, some convention or something, because the amount of questions that I've seen frequently asked and not being answered is not a good it's not a good look. And even their dev support tickets, they're like, "Hey, stay tuned for important news and information," which again isn't answering the question, especially if it's a frequently asked question. Anywho, that's just my opinion. So the devs need to communicate more with their fan base if they want to keep their fan base. If not, then well, we'll see what happens. I think the game has a big menu issue and explaining things issue. I think there's a lot of convolutedness and has created this pseudo barrier or filtering, weeding out new players that don't want to devote time into learning the game. Sadly, that's not good, and even now, I don't truly know what airspeed or air boost speed or air evasion means really. So there's like a lot of things stat wise, merit point calculation wise that isn't explained. And I think that creates a complexity that's really hard for someone who just wants to jump in and play a game to actually get in and play a game unless they're like super passionate or enthralled by the appeal of piloting a giant mech in order to, learn the sort of basics and also try to uncover the detailed stats and specifics in order to get good or even just to enjoy the game, honestly. Because I think a lot of the stats, like even I don't know all the stats, and I've played the game for a fair bit, but it shouldn't be me trying to find some sort of Dark Souls type lore in order just to find the basic stats that are applicable to like all the mechs. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't take calculations or a physicist to figure out like all this jazz. Anyway, I digress. But this would probably be different if the test pilot was a mandatory onboarding experience and it was easier and unskippable on the first playthrough on the tutorial mission in a way. So, like, there's a sort of a boot camp in order to understand a lot of the basics, but not everything. And even I actually haven't done the full test pilot thing because I was already knee deep in like general rank by the time I was showed that hey, you can do challenges and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So if the tutorials and trainings rewarded mission points or incentivized people to do them more than just existing and then giving like some sort of achievement flair, I think more people would actually do them. But also, having mission tokens be locked to a season was probably not the move, and I have more thoughts on that later. I think it would have been better to have mission tokens be a permanent and sort of combined with the matrix credits, but I also heard from people from the beta experience that saying that they used matrix credits for everything and then they changed the currency system, and so now they have this new seasonal currency system, which is the mission tokens, but it also causes a lot of confusion because of the things that you can buy with the mission tokens. Does that mean that those things also are expiring after the season ends? Like, for instance, you can buy different mechs or strikers using mission tokens, but if mission tokens expire at the season's end, then you have to start over the grind of accumulating mission tokens if you decided not to buy them after the season ends. And that's also like, hey, does that mean that the strikers are going to be sunset after the season? And there's a lot of uncertainty on that. I think there should have been a smaller currency of seasonal tokens that were explained as seasonal currency or whatever that you get on both earning a win or a loss, and that only applies for playing the game during that season or doing things in the game for that season. That would make a lot more sense to me. So, if I have a problem with bots in such a way that it requires like a thorough explanation. Any player that plays the game long enough has seen some bot behavior in both Mashmac and in lower ranks of ranked Verge as well as the casual Verge. And I'll speak about ranked Verge specifically. No one wants bots in ranked Verge. No one wants to clown on bots and then get ranking systems based off of that. If that was the case, then everyone would be okay with AI playing chess and then being in the ranked modes of playing chess. Like, okay, yeah, let's just have a whole bunch of robots play chess and then we'll fight against them and that'll determine our ELO. Like, no, that's not what people want. People want to find other competitive games with people that make the right moves, mistakes, and plays that actually make it engaging. Like, it's nice to clown on bots, sure, but if you're going to make it a ranked competitive game and if you're aiming to be esports, I don't want to, like, I don't want to fight against bots. That's not a ranked system. That's just bot training. Like, if bots were so appealing to fight against, then we'd see tournaments where people just fight bots. But obviously, that's not the case. We don't have a lot of World Cups in different video game esports where people are playing against bots other than the guys that are accidentally or intentionally maliciously cheating, right? The problem above all is the it's not just the bots, because I want bots in Mashmock. I don't care if I kill bots all day and farm them for trash loot. That's okay as long as I can play Mashmock. That's like my chill mode. But the problem above all that is that the developers are lying and gaslighting people to think that there aren't any bots. And here I am posting a screenshot of what one of the support tickets that I sent out about, hey, maybe we should do this with some bots, like make them co-rated strikers. So it's like, okay, I know that those are bots and that I can fight them in Mashmock. But then they went ahead and Freudian or Rosenthal slip, or correction, Freudian slip or Rosenthal effect projected themselves into thinking that I was talking about ranked Verge when I made no mention about ranked Verge at all. They said that we would also like to point out that all the players in the game are real people. Regarding the issue you mentioned about encouraging players of varying skill levels, this is determined by the number of players on the server as well as your current rank. By raising your rank, you can be matched with higher quality opponents. So what this tells me is that they're denying that any bots are in ranked Verge. They won't address the bot allegation at all, which pushes any merit for people to actually play ranked, which is one of the three major modes of the game. There's Mashmock, Ace Arena, and Verge. And if you're denying bot allegations and not addressing the bot issue, it's not going to fare well for people who are playing ranked Verge, especially for new players trying to play the ranked game and they find out that they're playing with bots. Like for me, I got up to Grand Master and I was like, these are bots. There's no way that they play like trash. They have some aimbot here and there, and they run into walls and shoot the ground. Like these are bots. It's a huge turnoff, and I think a lot of players don't want to play against that, especially in a ranked mode. And Ace Arena doesn't have enough players to actually queue up. So if you kill both of those game modes, all you have is Mashmack, and then and there's a different can of worms issue, but Mashmack players are essentially pushing other players out, which then just means you have a dead game because all the game modes are near unplayable, if that makes sense. So this pushes, having bots in ranked pushes away any merit for people to actually play ranked, because as it turns out, bots aren't real players. They don't do crazy unhinged moves like real players. They don't make the mistakes that actually lead to a win like real players. They don't play like real players. It's not a measure of skills. It's a training simulator. It's a training mode. I don't want to fight bots in ranked. I don't want to be ranked compared to bots. If I see bots in casual, it's like, okay, it's whatever, it's casual. I personally don't care. I play for fun in casual. And even then, sometimes casual games aren't fun. But bots in ranked literally have aimbots. And bots don't go away until around about the general rank or Grandmaster. I don't know. People are just like debating and making up stuff. But by the time, if players figure it out early, they don't want to play because what's the point of playing ranked? And also, some others say you can find bots via the game data, and I am including that screenshot here just so you can look and see. There's I don't know, I guess a way for people to check if a person in a game like a matchmark lobby is an AI. Additionally, I remember in games like League of Legends, you'd have to rank up to level 21st before you can do ranked games. That way, there's actual player onboarding. Instead, if you're thrown into a bot game in the ranked mode and you're still trying to figure out the basics, there's not a solid map tutorial and overview. So you're kind of just fumbling your way through chaos and surprised if you win or lose. And after finding out that they're bots, it kind of just makes the whole effort that you put in pointless. Like what's the point of ranked if I'm getting ranked against bots? You know what I mean? So you're kind it's so basically just get rid of bots from ranked, admit to bots, and then actually talk about bots. I don't care if you apologize, just talk about your whole bot issue would be ideal. And then to add bots to Mashmock, because I don't care if I'm fighting bots in Mashmock. I'm not doing it for the rank. I'm just doing it to play the game. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about how matchmaking in the ranked system is basically trash. So ranked isn't really ranked because it pushes you up the rank up faster by giving you more rank points or the merit points or however MMR is calculated or ELO is calculated on a win than a loss up until about general ranked, and then it's about equal ups and downs based off of roughly what you get. And, most people don't. If you lose and you lose like 7 points and then you win and you gain 12 points, you're artificially being pushed up the rank ladder, which is great if this is a casual game, not aiming for esports or anything like that. But it's also kind of defeats the point of calling it a ranked system. You know what I mean? Like if they got rid of casual mode entirely and then called ranked something else, like just Operation Verge, that would be cool. That would be fine. No one would no one would care because no one would think, oh, it's rank or whatever, right? But they don't. They have a ranked mode and a casual mode, and they only recently had an update in order to give rewards and stuff to casual mode. So the ranked mode is kind of trash. So you can't derank tiers. So if you hit champion 5, you can't go back to general. If you hit legendary, you can't go back to champion. So you can't derank to the previous tiers, which creates people who found a little like window of luck and at their current play skill level to stay at a certain rank. And if everyone plays better or people rank up and actually have better skill, and then you're going to play in games that you're going to lose a lot, unless you get carried by your team. You can occasionally find even bronze players and such in legendary lobbies, probably Smurfs or boosting, I don't know. Which I don't know if they do queued, but I don't think that they belong based off of rank alone. I think if you're bronze, you shouldn't be able to smurf or boost in a legendary lobby or get boosted by your peers into whatever. And it's just a lot of issues with ranked. It doesn't make a lot of sense. For instance, one time I got queued into a 5 stack of players to test out how 5 stack queues work. So we weren't ranked in the top 500 or anything. We were just all like bare minimum legendary. We just reached it like a couple days ago. Well, some of us reached it a couple days ago. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'll try ranked Verge, I guess. And then we got paired up with literally some of the players from the top 30. Like, you're telling me that out of the 700 or so legendary ranked people, there wasn't enough people to pair us up with someone of similar MMR ratings, and then we get paired against the top like 30 players? And here's a screenshot of that. And just as a clarification, Renegade Man, who looks like Owen Wilson, was not in our stack, and he is a top ranked player. So everyone on the enemy team was also a top ranked player. And I'll say this is not matchmaking. This was not fun. It was a one-sided bloodbath. And I feel bad for Renegade Man, Owen Wilson lookalike, for giving him a loss. So if people have an ELO or MMR rating of super high and then you just decide to want to play in a 5 stack or a 6 stack and then you get paired up with literally the top players in the game, skipping like 700 or so other players that are also in queue to play the game, it kind of, I don't know, defeats the purpose of running a stack. Because I'll be honest, a lot of people artificially limit themselves to duo, solo, or trio queue because they don't want to run a stack that plays against the top rankers. So already it kind of just defeats the purpose of ranked, because like what's the point of forming a team if you're going to fight against the top rankers? And there's even times when I would form a team of 3 and then my other friends would form a team of 3 and then we played against each other. And I'm like, I didn't want that. I didn't want to play against, my own friends in ranked mode, just so that we can go back and forth on winning and losing. So we had to queue differently at separate times and such. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's just because the player base is small, but like, I don't know, maybe seeing the same players over and over again for different stacks is not ideal. Also, winning merit points not by rank difference but by generic metrics is not good. So if you have like someone who's, I don't know, got a 6,000 ranking score or whatever, and then you win against that person, I feel like that should be weighted differently, right? But it's not. It's just weighted the same all throughout. It's like, okay, did you get MVP? Okay, what's your merit points? Okay, here's all this and all that jazz. It's like, it doesn't factor in the fact that you might be paired up on a team of champions fighting a team of legendaries. And then all of a sudden, your team loses because they didn't play well, like what happened to me recently. And all of a sudden, you still feel the same loss. And I'm like, I can't carry this. I can't carry this team, especially as a healer. I don't have the ability to carry a team that can't put out damage. So yeah, if you're on a team of legendaries and or champions, sorry, and then you fight against a team of legendaries, you don't get more points in the rankings. If they have a higher stats or a higher what do you call it, merit points or ranking points, you don't get more and they don't lose more. So you just have to keep playing. It's about playtime and not it's not skill based, right? It's by playtime and luck, and then you have to have relative skill and team cohesion and luck in order to actually rank up. And I don't really want to play a skill based luck RNG thing. Or sorry, not necessarily skill based. I don't want to play a luck RNG to make sure that, hey, my team is at least equal to the other team, because if my team's trash or if their team's trash, then it's one-sided, and that's not fun. That's not what ranking systems should do. You should have like, oh wow, this was a really close play, but then it turned around, and that's fun. That's competitive. That feels good. Yeah. Also, another thing is like some people don't play healers at all, and some people suck at whatever they're playing, so that's another issue. Also, the settings for default striker to only one mech doesn't actually mean that you'll always get that mech. That's also another issue, because there's a lot of one tricks that usually only play like one mech, like let's say Aquila, and then they're also in the same team as someone else who does the exact same thing. So obviously they both can't be Aquila, so they have to trade off. There's other issues like this, and I think they all could be better patched, but also the ranking system is bunk. They also added tier protection cards, which I think is great to help people climb, but it's not great for making ranks fair and competitive. It's not great for actually being a serious rank system. Like, if I had a tier protection card for playing, I don't know, chess, be like, okay, I might as well, I can just spend money and get tier protection cards or something, and then all of a sudden I'm a grandmaster, right? Like, all I have to do is win and not lose any MMR, and I'm good, right? Like, that's kind of absurd. That's not a ranking system. If you did that in like fighting or anything like that, I guess you could win all the world titles with as undefeated by using your tier protection system. Like, it's kind of stupid, right? It doesn't make sense. Don't put that in a ranked game. Don't. If you want to take yourself seriously as an esports, you got to have a good ranking mode. If the rank mode is trash, then you're not going to take off as an esports thing. Like, just get rid of that idea and just make the game fun first, and then make the rank system an actual rank system, and then that'll solve itself. So they have to sort of figure out what they want to do with their ranked mode. Make it so ranks matter. Maybe, I don't know. That's a suggestion. Or they either make it so that everyone gets enough legendary with enough playtime and luck. Like, for instance, from my experience playing Halo 3, there was 2 different ranking modes. One for playtime that you'd rank up, and then another that was a number that was tied to skill level, and then that number would allow you to match make with people of the same skill level or the same number. But that other rank was just, oh, you get it from just playing. That's cool. You can, okay, you're a brigadier general. Cool. And that's because you got all these experience points. Cool. And then also, boom, there's ranked mode. Oh, you're level 50? Okay. And you're fighting other level 50s? That's cool. Oh, you're level 44 and then you're stuck trying to fight to 45? Or you're getting knocked down? That's also cool. That's like good ranking system, you know what I mean? And I think that's the problem is like they're trying to push everyone to legendary or champion rank. They're trying to rank everyone up in this inflated rank economy that it doesn't actually mean anything, because when you get there, it's like, okay, everyone's playing like there's a huge gambit of skill level from, I barely know what I'm doing to, hey, I'm going to just go ahead and secure 15 kills and then do the objective 5 times and carry the team. Like, that's too big of a swing. That's too big of a skill level gap. You know what I mean? That's not ranked. That's just like luck, RNG. That's the trash. Just don't call it a rank mode if it's going to be like that. So, my personal take on this, on top of all that, is I'm a casual gamer and I just climbed a legendary slowly in about a month, and then I chilled. So I didn't really care for sweating for the top ranks or anything like that. And then they added incentives for being the top ranks. I still don't care about the top rank incentives because I don't want to sweat. I just want to play and have fun. So there are some valid concerns for those that want to sweat. Like, obviously, if you're playing ranked, you don't want a dog shit teammate. And you don't want someone who can't play what they're playing. It's just not fun. You want everyone to actively apply themselves and then try and give it an attempt, and then there's a good back and forth toss up. No one wants to see a one-sided snooze fest where you're just beating a whole bunch of people that are weak, that as if you're beating up bots, or if you're getting beat by a whole bunch of people and then you just have a whole bunch of death staggers left and right, and then you're not even able to play the game because you're too busy watching your kill cam. Like, it shouldn't be that wide of a gap. That's not ranked mode. That's not fun. That's not competitive. You can't take yourself seriously. You can't take the game competitiveness seriously or ranked seriously if it's going to be like that. Also, players are only suo, duo, or trio queue, as mentioned before, not to get an unfair stack against the top players. So why not just, I don't know, here's a suggestion. I don't think it's the right answer, but why not just make Verge a 3-stack maximum? And that way everyone can get a fair shot at fighting against teams that are 3-stacked. You won't see a 4-stack, you won't see a 5-stack, you won't see a 6-stack, and there's always a chance that you can, pair up with a 3-stack, a duo stack, and a single or solo queue. And that would be fair against an enemy team that was also 3-stack, 2-stack, and a solo queue. That's fine. Or even 3 solo queues. It doesn't really matter as much. But the 6-stack makes sense for an esports team, but not everyone wants to queue in a 6-stack and then get paired up with the top players in the entire game. Like, that's not fun. They want to be paired up with people at their current ELO or MMR or whatever ranking system that there are, or ranking points that they have. If this game doesn't optimize any matchmaking in their ranked system, then there's not going to be a lot of players. If you don't have a lot of players, then the esports scene is not going to happen. Or it's going to be super small and their skill levels aren't going to be anywhere as good as they could be because they're a big fish in a small pond sort of thing. So, like, what's the point of being able to beat everyone in a gym if the only people that can enter that gym is, like, I don't know, high schoolers or something like that, or kindergarten kids? Like, what, like you're undefeated playing against people that are actually scrubs or something like that. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So what I'm trying to get at is, if you have a better ranked system, you can encourage more players that actually want to play ranked and competitive, which means that there's more people playing the game, which means there's more strategies and techniques that spread themselves, and you can see how diverse the playstyles and skills are. And there's more reinventions of the sort of generic or metaphorical wheel. So you get more insane gameplays and more insane chances that something cool happens. And it's just a probabilistic emergence theory of seeing good games and having fun in a ranked competitive mode. because iron sharpens iron. If that wasn't the case, then I guess grandmasters would be okay just playing against, regular people. I'm sorry. I'm saying like grandmasters in chess would be okay with taking it seriously, playing ranked against people who don't even know how to play chess or something like that. Which, I mean, I'm sure it happens and people play in chess and have fun and all that jazz, but it's different if it's considered ranked and you're getting ELO and you're just ELO stomping on someone who's not really that good. That's that's a big problem with matchmaking. Another issue that I have with the matchmaking and ranking system is that the scoring is weird. No one actually knows how merit scores are made. There's not a clear tooltip or calculation for what kills are worth or what deaths are worth or how adjusted damage or healing or any of the stats work. If you win and get MVP, you get more rank points. But if you lose and get SVP, you don't actually get anything to cushion your rank point loss. So it doesn't actually make sense to measure SVP at all because it actually doesn't help your stats at all other than you got SVP. So SVP does grant you mission tokens, but they only give you about like 17 mission tokens, which isn't enough to buy anything on the shop. It's dumb. It's not weighted properly. If I lose rank, sure, I guess. 17 mission tokens, those are breadcrumbs. What can I buy with 17 mission tokens? An NFT banana? I can't D rank. You can't D rank from a tier, so if a player that was playing at a rank that they got lucky to find themselves or myself in, or if the nerfs and buffs change the meta and if good players start climbing that are actually a lot better than the current players, then the bad players would be on teams that they get carried or end up throwing. What I'm saying is constant losses for whatever reason means you can't farm mission tokens through playing the game at that rank or level, and because you can't D rank out of that tier, there's a higher chance that you'll lose if you suck and you're not able to play at the skill level that you're at, or if there are a whole bunch of good players that start playing at the skill level that at the rank that you're at. And I'm here to defend the experiences for all players, so even the low skill and high skill players should be rewarded for playing the game. It makes the game fun. If you're high skilled, you don't want low skilled teammates. If you're low skilled, you don't want to fight against high skilled teammates over and over again. You don't want a stomping match where either one side loses all the time. You want something that is competitive where iron sharpens iron and you meet something competitive where you're fighting against people that are playing at the level or rank or skill that you expect. That is fun. That is ranked. That makes sense. Another issue with this game is that there's too many ranks. They shouldn't have 10 ranks. They have way too many ranks. There's bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master, grandmaster, general, champion, legendary, and the top 100 are indestructible. I feel like I'm reciting the tea cabinet out of a Scott Pilgrim film. And each rank up to champion has 5 tiers. So there's 5 tiers within these ranks that you can rank down the tier, but you can't go to the tier below it. So I think they should revamp how the ranking system works. Honestly, they could probably just get rid of general, champion, legendary, and then would probably be good. And then they allow people to D-rank, thereby making a real rank system. They just need to make sure matchmaking is actual matchmaking on top of that, or something. They just gotta do something with the ranks, man. Like, there's way too many. Like, I could understand if you have like a billion players playing this game, but right now, there's not like 100,000 on any server that I know of. You can't do it with 10 ranks and then also have ranked tier protection and then not take the game seriously because the rank doesn't make sense and it's not serious. And then also there's not enough players playing, so the rank is just like small pond, right? It's just so annoying and frustrating. It's like why is the rank system so trash? Why Why is the rank system so trash? Why are there so many ranks? Why is matchmaking buggy and or unfair? Why is this like a game of like I'm just oh my god. Like okay, I'm trying to lock in. What I'm trying to say is rank system sucks. Matchmaking sucks. There's too many ranks. There's not enough players. There's bots in ranked. None of it makes sense. People don't want to play against bots. People don't want to play for rank other than for ego score, but even then, getting to that score is disheartening if you have to fight against bots. Like, at that point, just make a tutorial system where people level up their account levels before they can jump into rank, and then they jump into rank, and then they actually learn how it feels, and then they get D-ranked, and then have competitive games where they're struggling and fighting, and the climb is actually somewhat of a grind, but also rewarding, right? Like you want to actually get the higher rank and feel like you're rewarded into it, not like you got a lucky gotcha, opened a box, and then like, oh hey, yeah, look, I'm legendary now. Like that's not a ranking system, and I think that really kills any vibe for anyone to take this game seriously in any esports setting. Okay, all right, let's go with that. All right, so we're moving on to a different topic, Corite. So they have this premium currency called Corite. It's these yellow cubes that you can buy with real money. They have to make their money somehow. I get it. It's a video game. They're spending money to make money, and then they're also spending money to advertise and market. And for whatever reason, the battle pass called the Matrix contract doesn't give you any Corite. So you're spending real money for a battle pass that doesn't actually reward you with the thing that you can buy with actual real money, which is, I don't know how they approve that. It's just whatever. Anyway, so the point is, the only way to get Corite currently is through selling stuff on the market or using money, which isn't necessarily revamping or inclusionary. So in other games like Helldivers 2, you can get super credits, which is the premium currency in that game, by playing the game. In other words, you can get the premium currency by playing the game. The issue with Corite is that it's used for both cosmetics and for weapons and mods. If it was only for the cosmetics, then it'd be fine because it's not necessary. Since it's also applicable for weapons and mods and things that people can bring into other game modes like Mashmock or even casual Verge that allows mods, a lot of people jump to the conclusion that buying power means pay to win. Um, Even though you can lose your weapons and mods, and even though you're buying and selling to other players, people still jump to the conclusion that the game is pay to win, which I don't hold personally after my experience playing this game. But it's not a good look. It's not a good perspective. It doesn't feel inclusionary. This is not a new system, and you can buy cosmetics from a store that doesn't actually put the Corite into the market. So this game has a sort of finite supply of Corite unless people inject real money into the game itself, which then means that the market in-game economy is going to be dry on Corite unless people keep spending money into the game. And people don't want to spend money into the game if they think the game isn't worth spending money on. So they need to cater to people to make the game fun and replayable and chill, honestly. And then people can come in to, spend money on things. And I think they need to make an in-game way to make Corite, much like finding Corite out of, like they mentioned in the betas that you could play Mashmock and then you could also get Corite from playing Mashmock via some of the ores or stuff that you could find, I guess. I guess they got rid of that. I don't know. I didn't play the betas, so there's not a way to make money unless you game the market. And in order to game the market, you need a buyer to buy it with Corite. So now someone has to spend real money in order to, like, it's not a good system in that sense. Like, it works for other games like Warframe where they do have a player market with platinum and stuff, but you don't need to spend money in that game to get all the stuff. It's just a pay to skip. In this game, it's also a pay to skip, but also you can't just sell items for not premium currency. There's not a non-premium currency market. There's not a mission token market or matrix credit market where you can trade with other players. They got rid of trading because people were abusing it. So that's another thing that they have to figure out and make it so people can play the game, invest their time, and actually get something out of it to be comparable to some of the other players. And then that would help foster a healthy player base. And then if people wanted to, they can spend their money to get the little skip that they can get. Yeah, so Corite, I mean, I don't know, maybe there's three currencies in this game. Maybe that's just too much. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. So there's a issue with mission tokens and seasonal uncertainty. There's uncertainty within the community of what happens to the new strikers. The vagueness and not answering questions is a big hit on the reputation for the game and the game devs. People are asking if the new strikers like Serenith, Stellaris, and Inferno can be unlocked with mission tokens. But if the mission tokens expire every season, that kind of implies that the strikers are seasonal, and there's vague or no communication on clarifying this important question, which is hurting the player base and community, and so everyone's left to figure out what they're going to actually do. And honestly, at this point, with the lack of communication, I don't think the devs, know what they're going to do. So no one wants to love something and be left in the dark talking to a wall, and that's the community and how the community feels when the devs aren't answering basic questions. The whole being mysterious and thing isn't a good PR stunt if the game is launched and has glaring issues on the quality of life and basic questions that no one's answering. Like, are we going to see Serenith, Stellaris, and Inferno? Are they going to be free unlocks at next season? I think that's a great idea, right? I think, in my opinion, that they should make Inferno, Stellaris, and Serenith free after the season ends, based on the way that the current game is set up, with the seasonal tokens, which is the mission tokens, expiring every season. That way you can farm up new mission tokens, and you don't have to spend it on old strikers that also used the old season's mission tokens that expired. I would have preferred if they gave more mission tokens for wins and losses, and if they gave Corite for weekly missions rather than mission tokens, and if they also did like a mech unlock progression system. But they kind of, I don't know, 15k mission tokens to unlock one mech isn't good, isn't priced in right, if that makes sense. I think it should be like 5k mission tokens or something like that. That'd be more reasonable in my opinion. That would have been my preference. But if they sunset and they don't allow people to purchase Inferno, Stellaris, or Serenith behind a wall based on the limited time of the Season 0, then that's going to induce mind-numbing levels of frustration for both current and new players that don't have them unlocked. I personally unlocked them, and I don't play them because I don't care to. I had a lot of mission tokens. It is what it is. I'm good with my picks, and I'm solid at what I'm good at, so I don't bother playing those guys because I don't need to, and I don't want to, and it's a game, so I play how I want to play. But also, it's not easy for someone who doesn't just play the game a lot to unlock those guys. They do have a really cool feature where you can use the trial and do a 7-day unlock and test it out, which is good for you to get the experience in, but it's still a heavy price point. And again, I don't like the implication that you can buy strikers with mission tokens that expire at the season end. I'm hoping that they're free next season and that they add new strikers. But I have my suspicions on everything, and I'm just saying that this might be the worst case scenario, is that they sunset it behind a temporal paywall and that you don't get to see these strikers again. I don't know. They're not communicating anything. I'm telling you, no one's saying what they're doing in terms of the dev team. They're just saying, hey, we're working on PvE and cooking something up. Hey, we're working on a 24v24 mode. Okay, that's all cool stuff. I would love to learn more about that, but also, hey, when does the season end? All right, are these strikers are going to stick around or what? Are they going to be free? Are they going to, like, there's a lot of basic questions that you, as a dev team, need to come together and figure out the answer on and then give an official statement. Or else then we're just left in the dark and be like, you know what, I'll just play another game. Right? Like, a lot of people are just waiting until Season 1 pops up, and then they'll see, hey, did they actually listen to the community? Did they actually make better changes? Or are they just gung-ho, willy-nilly, without explaining themselves on what they want to do with changes? Because if you guys leave the current player base behind, then that's going to dwindle the population of the current player base. And if they're not happy, and if you're trying to chase new players, but new players see the rhetoric and the doom posting from the old players, then no one's going to be happy, and no one's going to play. And you can't have a nice live service game if no one's playing. So you have to make both player bases happy, preferably the one that you currently have, and then branch on outwards. Not the other way around. Don't chase two rabbits to get none, if you know what I mean. Side note, rally orders are a mess. People who join in the game desperately want to find other people to join their rally orders or find one that they can join. But then they have to unlock mission tokens, and you can't kick people out of rally orders if they decide to be inactive. So if they don't contribute, then you lock yourself out of the later unlocks in a rally order. What they should have done, in my opinion, was just make the rally order based on the total mission tokens earned across all players rather than individual contributions counted as one unlock per player, if that makes sense. So this allows rally orders to kick inactive players. Also, the rally order countdown corresponds to a season being 3 months, and then the game devs are talking about ending the season earlier after 2 months of the game being out. So I don't know what is what. So this brings me to my next point, which is the season end. The South American server is currently, sadly, on life support. The EU servers are slowly decaying, and the NA servers are joining and lagging behind the EU servers in that decline. This could change after Season 1 launches, but there's also issues and changes that need to be made outside the game, like, for instance, developer engagement and communication. All of this could be mitigated or slowed down by having a community manager to answer simple questions. Simple questions like, when does the season end? Because the Mecha BREAK website says the seasons are 3 months long, and July 2nd plus 3 months is October 1st, because the game came out July 2nd. But then Chris, the executive producer from Season Games, posted on the Mecha BREAK official Discord some jazz about the season ending in about 2 weeks on August 13th. What do you mean in about 2 weeks? What do you mean about 2 weeks? What does that even mean? Like, okay, and then 2 weeks have passed and the season's not over yet. So people are thinking, hey, is the season going to end in 3 days? Is the season still ending? Or is it actually going to stick to its original timeline in which seasons are 3 months, right? So the bare minimum one should expect if you paid for a Matrix contract, which is a season pass to support the game that gives you something during the season, is to know how long that benefit lasts. If you don't know how long that benefit lasts, or if they end it early, they're shortchanging you, which means that consumer protection wise, you didn't get what you paid for. And I also asked questions with support tickets, and I will include that here. But basically, they said, hey, we hear that you care about the new season's launch time. Please stay tuned through official channels, which is not an answer. It's saying, hey, go figure it out. You'll figure it out when you hear it. Yeah, just wait for us to say it. Like, yeah, I'm waiting, but also I paid for this pass to enjoy whatever the game that you have provided. And here I include another screenshot from another response that someone asked the same thing. And if they just tell you to stay tuned, it sounds like the equivalent of either I don't know and or get bent, which is not good. It's not good PR. It's not good customer service. Imagine if you place an order for something to be delivered to another area, right? And they give you a tracking number, but it doesn't tell you when estimated time it's going to arrive, right? Here we have 2 different dates in about 2 weeks from when it was posted, or a season lasts 3 months. And we're like, which one is it? No one knows. No one knows. That's not good. That's like the bare minimum to having a season, is like saying how long a season is, sticking with it, and then letting people know when the season actually ends so that people can prepare, because mission tokens expire at the season's end. So like, when should we spend it? And all this other, it's just creating all this extra stress for no reason, and it's just pissing a whole bunch of people off, because like, if they can't even answer a simple question like this, like, what is their management doing, right? Like that. Anyways, moving on. There's too many queues. There's Verge. There's ranked and casual mode. And then there's Ace Arena. There's ranked and casual mode. Then there's Mashmock. There's 2 different modes, free-for-all and co-op. And there's 3 different queue difficulties. Normal, hard, and extreme. That's 10 queues. And then they added Covert Ops, which is 11 queues. And Covert Ops isn't technically a queue, but people are still trying to find games to specifically queue at that game, if that makes sense. So there needs to be like a multi-queue or some way to matchmake and pair people based on combat readiness and skill level. Also, just add bots. Please just add bots of all difficulties to Mashmock. I don't care. Bots would help. I just want the loot. And the thing about having too many queues means you spread thin the player base, and then also that causes some issues because Right now, after Covert Ops has been released and after the loot drop has increased on normal, hard, and extreme, people are having a very difficult time finding games in hard and extreme, which forces some of the higher skilled people that want better loot to have to play normal if they want to play the game. So now you have high skilled people playing with new people in the easiest game mode that they have available, and that's not good for the new people, especially if the high skilled people are on a team of high skilled people, if that makes sense. Another thing worth mentioning, this was a little bit ago, but the top ranked of MASH, as of making this video, Mr. Full Frontal himself, is doom posting. And, respect to the guy. He's not a bad guy. He's good. He's good at the game. He plays a lot. And he's doom posting. And I think that is a problem, from the fact that, hey, this is someone that loves to play the game, but for whatever reason, besides life and things outside the game, extraneous circumstances, he's got a doom post to say that the game is dead, which is not good. If your number one player in Mashmac, based off of the execute or extraction success rates, is playing the game a lot and then says the game is dead, that's not a good sign. In a way, no offense to him, and I don't mean to make any offense for any players that are murder hobos in Mashmock or anything like that. I have no problem with them. I think it's funny and ironic even because there's a lot of top Mash players that play and they mainly go around playing in normal. And one, it's fun, but two, there's a good chunk of them that are murder hoboing everyone and executing people. And so that's not a really good way to retain players or onboard new players. So it creates this big problem with MASH as high-skilled murder hobos are wrecking entire lobbies. And that doesn't grow a player base. If you're new to the game and then you get executed every time that you play into the game, that's not good. You're not going to want to play that game. You don't want to play a game in which you lose, or if it's stacked against you and you have no sort of ability to fight for yourself or get even gear to help fight against those people. Because how are you going to get Matrix credits if you don't play Mashmock, if you don't have successful extractions, right? So this alienates and isolates the ability for people to actually enjoy, play the game, and actually get better loot, and then actually be viably competitive against skilled players that come in with, 3 dual wield tier 3 autocannons, beam autocannons, and then wreck you. Like if you imagine 3 skilled players just all dual wielding beam autocannons and then wrecking you, and you're just a new player who doesn't have any drops or anything, you're not gonna want to play the game because you're gonna think that, hey, doesn't matter what skill I have, they're gonna wreck me. It looks like they have cool weapons, and you're going to preliminary make the decision that the game is pay to win, or that these people are grinding so much that they can wreck you, and you have no fighting chance, and that's not good. That's not good. You're not going to retain or onboard new players if they get wrecked. Which is also another reason why I think we should add bots. More bots to Mashmock. So everyone can find a game in normal, hard, and extreme. My opinion, I stick to it. I honestly play Mashmock for fun. And I don't like being a murder hobo, but sometimes I do get paired up with some of the skilled players that are murder hobos, and I just keep up with them because that's what we're doing, I guess. And I don't want to be a bad teammate. Someone on the Japanese Discord said that they could, this was their suggestion, that they could condense the 7 queues into 4. They could have normal free-for-all, normal co-op, covert hard co-op, and then solo extreme. And that way you wouldn't have the extra queues there. And that way people could play free-for-all in either normal or extreme and not have this ridiculous unfair advantage. And then you'd probably see a lot of Stellaris mains in solo extreme, I'll be honest. But this would at least allow people to play the higher difficulty Mashmocks, because if you can't find a lobby to fill extreme, then you can't play extreme, which means what's the point of a game mode if you can't play it, right? People just want to play the game. If the game's fun, let it be fun, and then let people play. Right now we have artificial limiters preventing us from playing the game, which is the lack of filling a lobby to play the game, and that's due to low player base, but also due to decisions like in having covert ops and increasing the loot tables for normal. So another solution that you we could do here is that we could swap Operation Storm and Covert Ops. Covert Ops could be the PvP with much better rewards. It could be a single difficulty with only 3 attempts per week unless you get tickets from the PvE mode to play it more, or sell it to whales who want to play the PvP mode only. Additionally, if you could earn these PvP Covert Ops tickets by doing some sort of winning every 5 games or so, or 10 games of Verge or Ace Arena, this would incentivize the PvPers that play the PvP modes to enjoy MASH. And it also creates an injection of this PvP sort of economy focus while maintaining a PvE friendly mode with a lower loot table for people who just want to go around and kill things in Mashmock. That way, it makes the PvE people happy, and it also increases the loot for the PvP people, and then makes them happy because there's actually more of a threat because you don't want to waste a ticket, if that makes sense. So they could have swapped the Covert Ops and the PvP, and that's still an option on the table. And I don't know if that's the right answer, but these are suggestions. So you get a PvE mode that's infinitely repeatable for the player base that wants to grind and get better gear while fueling the economy for the hardcore PvP players, because those PvE guys that don't want to play PvP can sell those tickets to the PvP players, and the PvP players that don't want MASH can sell their PvP tickets to keep the MASH PvPers happy. So essentially, you create this economy where if you play one game mode, you can be somewhat rewarded with items of the other game mode, which I think they should have. Like, honestly, playing Verge ranked, you get ranks and then you get mission tokens. And then you convert mission tokens to maybe rockets or something, but you don't, there's not like an item that you can sell other than the rockets that you buy weekly or whatever to sell to other Mashmock players. So they could create a new sort of funnel or logistics chain for rewards in one game mode that help influence the other game mode. Another issue that I find is that rewards in MASH and rewards in Verge or Ace Arena don't translate outside of the mission tokens. So you don't really get a benefit in all the game modes by simply playing. And it's easier to farm mission tokens in MASH, in my opinion, than it is in Ranked Verge, because it's based off of killing things rather than winning the game. So if they could create something where you're rewarded some sort of benefit, material benefit for playing the other game, like if you played Ace Arena and Verge and then you got a mod box for winning, like what I hear from the betas that you did, then you can use that mod box to up your game in Mashmock or sell it on the market or whatever, right? And if you played Mashmock and you got cool paints, then you could paint which you already do, right? So there's an incentive feature that helps support both while keeping ranked purely competitive and not pay to win. And it keeps the Mashmock people happy, I guess. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it if you play one mode strictly only, it's not like it's rewarding the other mode, if that makes sense. Yeah, I hope I made myself clear. I don't know. Here's another suggestion. I think a change to make a safe inventory space to cargo drones, like sort of like in the RuneScape wilderness. That way, even if you die, you still get to keep some of the loot on you. This somewhat slightly disincentivizes murder hobos from killing the entire lobby and making confrontations less about PvP and more about farming with the chances of PvP and maybe a risk of loot. This is if we keep the current game modes as is. I think for a lot of the murder hobos, I don't blame them because the game incentivizes you for taking out the other players and then you get all their loot. But also it makes it really hard for players to get a leg up in the game if they don't have a lot of Matrix credits beforehand. Because as it is now, if you spend Matrix credits on getting a weapon airdrop and an ammo airdrop, bringing in the weapons and mods, and then you die, you have a chance of losing way more Matrix credits than you can even earn in one Mashmock mission. So you're at a Matrix credit deficit playing the game. If you're at a Matrix credit deficit on a win or a loss, you're going to be undergeared in the next game. In fact, even if you don't die, you may end up spending more Matrix credits on one mission, on Mashmock mission, on weapons and ammo airdrops. If the price to play is higher than the reward, it's an uphill battle, and most people don't want an uphill battle where there's sort of this imaginary tax in order to play. They don't want a taxing gameplay loop. So this loop is not optimized to keep people playing the game and doesn't reward the Matrix credits to the degree to be able to bring more stuff in if you play normal MASH. And here's an additional suggestion. If you get a free weapon and ammo airdrop during the game, like a tier 1 for normal and tier 3 for extreme, but randomized, and you have to select one of 3 loadouts, and you got that for free, then everyone can go into the game with at least something. Maybe make it so that weapons aren't saved and they're loner weapons and that get destroyed on extraction or something like that. That way you find weapons in the game while you're playing, but you also have weapons on you and you have a choice of weapons that you start with. That way you are at least viable against someone who does have weapons, even if they're tier 3 or tier higher, right? This also still maintains the viability and the demand for tier 4 and 5 and 6 weapons. They're still good and viable because you're not getting them for free. But the point is, the increased loot drop has made it less viable and not worth the risk to run hard or extreme. And covert ops can run Hellcat, so less reason to run on extreme with the chances of enemy popping in and ruining the Hellcat run. So more people are just doing Hellcat in covert ops rather than just playing extreme and risking it, because it's easier to farm covert ops tickets to do Hellcat on covert ops than it is to just do a Hellcat run in extreme. And I'm sure the loot tables might be different, but the risk isn't really isn't worth it, so people don't risk it usually. And with the whole covert ops things, less players play all modes of MASH, meaning the player base is tight, forcing players to play normal if they want to find a game and they just want to play the game. And that's an important thing that I have to reiterate. So now we get really good players against new players, and it's brutal to be executed in your first hour of playing. Not a friendly player experience. It doesn't give you material rewards for losing. So ironically and poetically enough, the murder hobos, sadly, are literally killing the new player base. Literally killing them and then making them want to quit. And that's not good for an inclusive, growing player base. It's not good. I don't fault the murder hobos. I fault the system and the game modes for incentivizing the player killing to be more profitable than farming regular mobs or even doing the missions. In fact, the missions that you get in Mashmock don't really reward you with much. You don't get like weapons, you don't get mod boxes. You might get a seasonal crate, but you can get more seasonal crates by murder hoboing the entire lobby. I've picked up 6 by murder hoboing the entire lobby. It wasn't my intent. I just ran with some people that wanted to do that, and that's what happened. So you got to really think, like, what is the incentive and game design here? Because if you have 6 extraction points but one team just wipes out all the other teams, there's no point having 6 extraction points. It kind of defeats the purpose. If they're just playing, look, the murder hobos, they're good. They're just playing the way they have fun, and it sadly, it robs new players of their fun. And then I'm going to reiterate this suggestion: add bots, hard and extreme matchback. Just add bots. There's already bots on normal. You don't have to gaslight me and lie and say that there aren't bots. I don't care. They are bots. Anyway, point is, just add them to hard and extreme. I want more bots. I just want to fill lobbies. I just want to play the harder game modes. And this allows, higher skilled people to actually run in those higher game modes. And that way they're not forced to, by the system, by game design, to run against and wreck lobbies of normal difficulty Mashmock. So if you just add bots, it would just be way better. I'd rather fight bots than other players, my personal opinion. I also would rather have some way to identify the bots from other players. That way, if when I kill a bot and I know it's a bot, I won't feel bad executing them at all. And I personally don't like executing. It's just not fun for me. But that's just my personal playstyle. Whatever. At least if you add bots to PvP Mashmock, you can at least lie to yourself and say it's PvE because you're just killing bots anyway. So that's a good thing. Overall, yeah, I think they need to create a structure or add something to make sure that we don't always go murder hoboing people, or they allow the murder hobos to actually shine and excel at murder hoboing in hard and extreme Mashmock, because I think that's where they belong, and I believe new players and chill players belong in normal. I think that's fair, right? That's just my opinion. So on another note, I as I was going earlier, wins don't feel rewarding. I feel like winning games in Mash and Verge and Ace Arena should award you with all the currencies for the other game modes. I feel like I should get Matrix credits from playing Verge. This will incentivize me to play Mashmock, and I should get Matrix credits for Mash, not by doing the mission, but just by playing Mash instead of just mission tokens. The mission tokens expiring is also a big issue. They made patches to add mission token rewards for playing casual, but they had lost a lot of players by then. It painted the picture that you had to play ranked and you had to do Mash in order to get mission tokens. And then people later found out mission tokens expired, which, I mean, it was in the tooltip if you hovered over the tooltip for the mission tokens before, but now they made it in red, and then they also clarified it in a post. But the tooltip is vague. It says please use promptly, but no word on when the season ends, and people are still asking that question. So everyone is just struggling to know when to actually use these mission tokens by. Also, there's someone making valid points from his perspective. If all you play is ranked Verge with the Battle Pass, which is the Matrix contract, there's a high chance that you don't have enough mission tokens to unlock everything, which is not good. If you're paying for a Battle Pass to not unlock everything in that Battle Pass, then that's honestly a really shit system. Honestly, I think they should have made it more like Helldivers 2 Battle Pass feature, where you can unlock old Battle Pass content and you can earn premium currency from playing the game rather than the market, but it's unclear what they're sunsetting after the season end. Also, I think certain items should have a air of exclusivity, but that's up for them to decide. I just think, hey, if you have a Battle Pass, you should be able to unlock everything in the Battle Pass merely by playing, but not to the degree where you have to play so much, like I'm talking like 100, 200 hours, right, in order to get everything from the battle or everything from the seasonal store. Also, as a side note, there's no incentive structure for Ace Arena, no seasonal rewards, no missions, not even weekly. Barely anyone plays Ace Arena, and there's no incentive to play Ace Arena because it's like a kill fest without rewards. So it's kind of just a rank grind for ego, which, people want, but if they can't find a game, they can't do. And that means less people in queue, meaning less people to play. All the weekly missions are tied to Verge. The only other weekly mission is to extract from Mashmock, and they only give mission tokens, which expire at the season's end. So it's okay as a reward, but not really great or fantastic. So if we want Ace Arena to take off, we need incentive structures for people to want to play Ace Arena. And then we also probably need to get rid of all the, like, there's too many ranks, yeah. Yeah. Injecting hopium particles. Alright, so now I'm gonna try to wrap this up with some of, I guess, non-critical critiques, just sort of saying, hey, the devs are trying. To be fair, the developers of this game are doing things to help. They're adding Covert Ops PvE, which I think is a good addition. They increased loot drops, which I think is also a good addition. But there's also, with each change, there are new downsides and problems, as mentioned earlier. So there's an ecosystem here in balance as of the current game design, and from my perspective, the devs are trying. The only real nerf or buff that I loved in the recent patches was hurricanes. I thought everyone else's was kind of unnecessary or unwarranted or not exactly what people wanted. I think hurricane got like the perfect buff, like game design philosophy perspective. The big problem with the devs trying new things is not that they're trying new things, it's that they're not communicating or engaging properly with players before they release the new things. For better or worse, they're changing the meta mid-season. They're also changing how the game is played mid-season, which, from my perspective, this is season 0. It's like not even the first official season, but it's also the first official season. The game has launched. I personally think the game is undercooked and was forced to launch, and that's why the game is like what it is. But hey, at least the devs are trying. It's not like these guys want to push a game to fail. If they wanted to push a game to fail and make money, the most logical like the most logical way to make money is just to make the game really good and then just charge people for it. That's and then just churn that out. I mean, you can look at any other AAA title, and that's basically the majority of the games right there, churning out titles left and right and sequels left and right, like movies and stuff like that. But they're trying. The devs are trying. There is a team there that genuinely cares about the success of their game. I just want to like reiterate that they are trying to do things, and they don't want the game to fail, and that's from my perspective, in my opinion. There might be some other issues with the management. There might be some other issues with the PR and how they handle some of the other players on other servers. I think there's a lot of other issues, and I've touched on quite a few of them, but not all of them. And I just want to reiterate that they're trying their best, and I want to forgive as much as I can any downsides that I point out, right? Because I don't want this game to fail. I'm playing the game. I'm even making this long, long-winded sort of critique soapbox where I'm standing on a soapbox and just saying random rift stuff about like, hey, what do I think and what are my opinions and perspectives on this? And I don't want the game to fail. I'm obviously saying some suggestions and opinions and ways that it can improve because I do want the game to succeed. It's quite honestly really awesome to have giant mechs playing high-paced, fast, intense multiplayer combat action because I don't see that a lot anywhere. And those that had the similar giant mechs with high-paced combat are usually dying games or they're already dead or whatever, right? You can go look at the graveyard for that. But the point is, I want this game to succeed, and I'm sure that the devs also want this game to succeed, and even the people in upper management also probably want this game to at least profitably succeed. I can't speak on behalf of like anyone other than myself, but I hope for the best for this game. So, in closing, Mecha BREAK has phenomenal gameplay and mecha design and painting, and there's a lot of love and passion that I see just within the designs, within some of the lore, and other things that I see within the development itself, as well as the teasers as well. It has a solid core game. The problem is with communication and menu systems and meta systems, and the initial image of the game doesn't look good from the monetization perspective, as well as some other issues that are glaring in quality of life things. I feel like this game was rushed, and honestly, it would have been better to release it early access for Season 0 because Season 0 felt more like a beta to me, so I treated it as a beta. And I did not play any of the betas for Mecha BREAK, so I can't comment directly and empirically and subjectively from any experience on the betas other than what other secondhand accounts tell me. At least that way, I would be more. It's more easier to forgive the shortcomings because I treat it like a beta in a sense, an open beta. I think overall, if you have happy gamers and you keep the current player base happy, then it's going to lead to a longer shelf life. I don't know what the devs are cooking up, but they are saying that they are cooking up things, and I hope it's good. And I hope they cook this game to be not overcooked and not undercooked, but like good. You know what I mean? I hope they're cooking, you know? Yeah, I'll see what happens. You know, I'll inject some copium particles, and then I'll see what happens after season 1 drops. Let me know what you think. I know this was like a long-winded soapbox. I sort of just put my opinions here and there. I only had like some small notes, but I don't want the game to fail. I want the game to succeed. It does feel rushed, and I want to be forgiving of that fact that, hey, yeah, they kind of rushed out something that wasn't completely ready. And you can also tell that by looking at some of the menu systems and designs and some of the issues and errors, even like the text-based errors. There's a lot of like minor things that you would iron out in a beta, but this game is out, Season 0. You can play it. It is free to play. I personally don't think it's pay to win, and I can go over that some other day. But yeah, we'll see what they have. Thanks for watching. Thanks for whatever, you know, this paying attention to this rant. I touched on a good chunk of issues, but not all of them. If you have better suggestions, opinions, agreements, disagreements, feel free to just comment or even just ignore me. I don't know. I'm just some random guy that plays the game. So, um, yeah, come to your own conclusions. Live a good life outside of this, and I hope you have fun, whatever you do. Cheers. Injecting copium particles.